Ezra Levant here at Rebel World Headquarters in Toronto. We did our daily live stream at 12 noon, and we are coming to you with an emergency update. Derek Sloan has been voted out of the Conservative caucus. And joining me now via Skype from his home is Derek Sloan. Mr. Sloan, welcome back to the program. We spoke to you last during the Conservative leadership campaign. As of now, you are no longer a Conservative MP. Is that true?
That is definitely true. As of about an hour ago, I was or even slightly less, I was notified that I am no longer a Conservative MP.
Now tell me about the process by which you were terminated. I understand there was a caucus meeting via Zoom. Is that correct? Were you a part of that meeting? How did that meeting go?
So I was a part of that meeting, and in that meeting, basically, and I should say up front that procedurally it was entirely fair. I was able to make at as much time as I wanted to make an opening and closing statement, and then in the intervening, others had some time to make comments as well. Obviously, the outcome is ridiculous, and of course will damage the party immensely. But they've made their bed, and now they have to lie in it.
Yep, as Mr. Sloan said, the Conservative Party of Canada made their bed and now they have to lie in it. But to quote a lyric from the Australian band Midnight Oil, how can we sleep when our beds are burning? What happened to Derek Sloan 2 days ago when he was given the boot from the Conservative Party was nothing short of a travesty. His unforgivable sin was receiving a campaign donation of a whopping $131 from a bigot. But the thing is, that bigot did not use his actual name when he made the donation. Well, too bad, so sad, because in the eyes of leader Erin O'Toole, Sloan committed an unpardonable crime. And to think that last year, Mr. O'Toole campaigned against cancel culture. Unbelievable. And without further ado, I'm joined by the Commander-in-Chief of Rebel News, Ezra Levant. Ezra, the bottom line for any party, any leader making decisions is to increase the vote, win more seats. I think what we saw a couple of days ago was a gift from God to the Justin Trudeau Liberals.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few reasons for that. Number one, Justin Trudeau needs criticism because he's doing a lot of things very poorly. I'm skeptical of the vaccines for the virus because I think they were rushed to market. The virus has such a low death rate. You would have to have an extremely safe vaccine for you to trade one set of risks for the other. But if you like vaccines, and some people do, great. Trudeau has been one of the worst leaders in the world for it. Pfizer has cut shipments to Canada down to 0. We are a fraction of the speed of delivery of other countries. I'm not even talking about best countries like Israel,
yes,
but for example, the state of Florida. So instead of criticizing that, Erin O'Toole does the circular firing squad. I mean, that is something that really needs criticism. The Keystone XL pipeline, when Joe Biden just nixed it and Trudeau said, oh, well, too bad for that. And contrast that again, I'm mentioning Israel, because Biden in his first day had this goofy idea. He wasn't going to have an ambassador to Israel. He was an ambassador to Israel and Gaza. And Israel said, no, if you call him that, he's not going to be welcome here. Yep. In 2 hours, Joe Biden turned around. So again, a contrast between a weak Canadian leader and another world leader. Yeah. Imagine if O'Toole and his critics had been focused on holding Justin Trudeau to account instead of holding Rebel News to account or holding Derek Sloan to account. How about being the official opposition to the government? So huge missed opportunities. Second of all,
and by the way, if I may add, Ezra, what a win for the Conservative base. If you look at the number of seats the Conservative Party has in Western Canada, you got to go to bat for the Keystone XL.
And why wouldn't you? And the thing is, Trudeau claims he's in favor, but he's done nothing to show it. Yeah. But much bigger than a lost 10 days of opportunity. Like seriously, 10 days where they were fighting among themselves and the Liberals were just laughing, oh, we're really going to get away with this, is that by his choices, Erin O'Toole has affirmed, confirmed, admitted, confessed all the sins he's been accused of. Yes, we are a deeply racist party. Yes, there's so many racists among us. Yes, we have to hunt them out. Yes, it's so critical. I'm going to call them bad names. Yes, it's so bad we're going to have emergency meetings to purge him. They're using words like purge. And So, okay, Derek Sloan is gone, which is too bad because I thought he was an effective MP who had a base support in the party. But it's not even about him. It's now the Liberals and the media, but I repeat myself, have the new standard that Erin O'Toole has set. You don't even have to have a racist in your caucus. Just if some obscure aging racist who hides his name donates $130 online, and if that's later found, you've got a gotcha moment suitable to fire someone. And that is exactly the casus belli that Erin O'Toole put in his tweet on Monday announcing Erin O'Toole being fired. He said it's because he had a failure of due diligence and gross misjudgment, and then he ended with some racist accusation, which is bizarre because, of course, Derek Sloan has a multiracial family himself.
His wife is from the West Indies, I believe, right?
That's right. Okay. So now it's open season. Every journalist, every liberal, every troll on Twitter now knows if you can find someone like 3 degrees of separation away from the party who has said or done something racist, Erin O'Toole has to live up to his standard. And it's an impossible standard, but he said it for himself. And so he has guaranteed that the narrative, the ballot question, as they say, from now till Election Day is, well, is Erin O'Toole racist or does he have to do more? And then there's one more thing. He has demoralized 3 parts of his base. Number one, social conservatives who feel that Derek Sloan was punished for that. Probably some truth to it. Number 2, those in the party who say, well, okay, I understand the leader being the leader and followers being followers and the leader's the boss, but there's a huge violation of due process here. I don't believe my party is internally very democratic anymore. Yeah. That's a different thing than someone who likes Sloan for Sloan. This is people who like rules and like procedure. And number 3, which is, I guess, related, cancel culture. Hair trigger sensitivity to fire and ruin someone's life because someone on Twitter had a tantrum. And that's all this was. The fact that Paul Fromm made a donation of $130 in the name of Frederick P. Fromm, and that wasn't caught by anyone, including by the Conservative Party headquarters, months later should be a cause to fire an MP in 2 days, shows the most wicked, hair-trigger, hypersensitive cancel culture imaginable. I can't think of a worse example of cancel culture in Canada, and yet Erin O'Toole had the chutzpah to campaign as the anti-cancel culture guy. He, in fact, put out a release during the leadership campaign specifically standing by Derek Sloan himself.
Yes.
And so I'm looking at Erin O'Toole, I'm thinking, you don't have the strategic sense to air your dirty laundry in private. You don't have the common sense to realize that this is going to be used against you as a new standard. You don't have the focus to take your opposition to the bad guys. You're taking it to the good guys. And finally, and here's the final takeaway for me, you've demoralized so many people in the grassroots. And for what? For every conservative you've lost, do you think you've brought over a new liberal who's excited? None of them. They're all saying, ha-ha, you've confirmed our narrative. You're a bunch of racists. Thanks for undoing yourself. We're going to stick with a winner called Justin Trudeau, because if we went for you, Erin O'Toole, you're just a Trudeau wannabe. Why don't we go for the real thing? It's Coke or New Coke. We'll stick with the good one.
Yeah. You know, Ezra, what I can't get my head around is how history is eerily repeating itself. And I'm not going back decades. I'm going back to 2019. Andrew Scheer, as the head of the Conservative Party of Canada, shunning Rebel News, bending the knee to the mean girls of the media party, as you like to say, making an enemy out of Bernier so he splits away, and here we have O'Toole making an enemy out of Sloan. It's like they learned nothing from the disaster of 2019, which I fear, if there is an election this year, we might look back at 2019 as the good old days.
Yeah. You know, in the end, Maxime Bernier lost his own seat and won no others. Yeah. The percentage he got, I think, was less than 5%. I'm going from memory. That said, I seem to recall a study showing that 8 seats were lost from the Conservatives. Now, that would have taken them up to 129 and taken the Liberals down. That would have been very close. Yeah. And that was, I think, mainly because people were a little demoralized and they thought, why should I fight for Andrew Scheer if he so clearly hates me? And he's, like, there was just a feeling that the party was at war with itself. I remember Andrew Scheer hired the Liberal dirty trickster Warren Kinsella to go after Bernier and the PPC. And again, I'm not saying you have to like Bernier and the PPC, but to have a whole campaign expenditure secret plan to go after your own base, what are you doing? And hiring a liberal to do it shows the whole thing. And so here you got Erin O'Toole, who is explicitly demonizing the right. Well, hang on, aren't you the party of the right? And if all you think you need to win are red Tories, you ain't going to win. No. You haven't won before. I think that, I'm very sad to say this, but I think if there's an election called the spring, which I think there will be, I think Justin Trudeau's going to get a thumping majority.
Yep.
And the tragedy of it is, I don't even know if the party has the energy, the resources, or the interested talent to go through another leadership race. I mean, it was a pretty tepid affair last time. I just feel like Aaron O'Toole's been a bit of a deceiver. All his talk about being open-minded to build the tent, talk to the Independent Press Gallery, of which we're a part. Even during the leadership campaign, he actually did talk to Keean Bexte on camera. He did his email interview with me about the China files, and then suddenly he just went crazy, and I'm thinking, who are you?
He took questions from me at the parliamentary, the nomination debate that we set up, in which unfortunately Leslyn Lewis couldn't make, and then Peter MacKay had earache solidarity. He couldn't make
That's
it.
right.
But Aaron O'Toole had questions with me, and suddenly everything changes. Crystal ball gazing for one last question, Ezra. I think you're right. I could see the Liberals probably gaining an additional 20 seats if the election were to be called for what they suspect is late spring, early summer. But for the Conservative Party's future, if it's another crushing defeat like that, our mutual colleague Sheila Gunn-Reid, she's hopeful there might be a repeat of what happened in Alberta with the Alberta Progressive Conservatives having a phoenix-like rebirth as the UPC party and getting back to their roots. Or my hope, and I'm not that hopeful it'll happen, but we saw in 2018 with the Doug Ford Progressive Conservatives, when the leader was Patrick Brown. In late January, there was a palace coup that got rid of Patrick Brown, thank goodness, and Doug Ford came in. Not that he is a utopia when it comes to leaders, but it just showed that in a short amount of time, you could have a radical leadership change and still win, in the case of Doug Ford, a supermajority. Is there any whispers you're hearing that is a consideration amongst those demoralized MPs who are on the Conservative side?
Well, a couple of things on that. First of all, that certainly was a palace coup where Patrick Brown's most close staff, like seriously, his closest staff, put the dagger in. So I don't think Aaron O'Toole has that same risk.
Okay.
The second thing is, we just had the test whereby there was a vote, a secret vote within the caucus, and at least it was a majority voting to oust Sloan. And I put it to you that doesn't necessarily mean they didn't like Sloan. They realized that if the vote failed, from O'Toole's point of view, if Sloan would have stayed in caucus, it would have been such a thumping, shocking, thunderous rebuke of Aaron O'Toole that he would have had to resign, because it would have been tantamount to a non-confidence vote. So Aaron O'Toole played a game of chicken with his caucus, saying, well, you better vote to kick out Sloan, because otherwise that's going to look really bad on all of us. So we don't know the vote results. It's a secret. Derek Sloan himself told me he didn't know the vote results, but he trusted them. I think he's too trusting. But so this was just a test. Is there a mutiny amongst the caucus? Well, not in the vote. In fact, Derek Sloan told me that not a single front bench MP spoke out in caucus in Derek Sloan's defense. So that tells me that there is no heir apparent. Patrick Brown had other people who wanted that job, including Doug Ford, obviously, and he had an untrustworthy inner circle who knifed him. I think Aaron O'Toole is the beneficiary of a very weak party, weak, shallow bench, no rising stars anywhere. I've been playing that game with everyone I can. Name the Conservative critic for Heritage. Name the. Could you do that one?
No.
Stephen Guilbeault. He's bringing. I mean, of course. I swear I've looked it up 3 times. I've forgotten his name every time.
Why bother, really?
You know, and I'm not trying to embarrass you, but can you name the Conservative critic for transport?
I knew this a few weeks ago when you did the quiz, and I've already forgotten.
There you go. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad, because I absolutely know none of our viewers know it either. And my point, and whenever I do this, I tell people I'm not trying to embarrass you. The opposite. I want you to realize that you don't know it and wonder why you don't know it, and come to your own conclusions. Mine are because they're either not allowed to speak out, they have nothing interesting to say, or perhaps the media won't cover what they're doing. All 3 of those possible answers suggest that they should be talking to Rebel News.
Exactly.
And I none of this I say with any joy. I've often said, you know, people say, oh, I told you so. Those are the worst words to say. People think it's a joy to say, I told you so, because, haha, I'm right. Anytime you say, I told you so, you're really saying my pessimistic prediction has come true. Well, who ever wants that to happen? I told you so. I don't want to be the guy saying, I told you so. I want to be the guy saying, oh, wow, I was wrong. He's great on cancel culture. He's great on free speech. He's strong at keeping focused at Justin Trudeau's flaws. He's really unlocking the talent in his own caucus and cabinet. Huh, I was wrong. I've never been happier to be wrong. That's the fun phrase to say. I've never been happier to be wrong. The sad phrase to say is, I told you so. But unfortunately, with Erin O'Toole, I told you so.
Well, Ezra, great analysis. And there you have it, folks. As Ezra said earlier, Erin O'Toole, in light of the Derek Sloan affair, if we can even call it that, played a game of chicken with his caucus, and he won. I'm afraid if an election is called later this year, this Conservative Party is going to lay an egg. Hey folks, that was an excerpt from my show, Rebel Roundup. Now, to get the full meal deal, why not go to Rebel News Plus, sign up, and never miss a Rebel News Plus show in the future.